It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to the program. It is County-Wide. Brad Miller with you, and we're happy to welcome into studio today a couple of three first-time guests, I should say, from Golden Bone Rescue and Rehab. Nadia Caillou and Angela Windolf are co-founders of Golden Bone. Good day, ladies.
Good day. Hello.
And we'll say good day, gentlemen. This is what's the full name here on our furry friend?
Paxil Pillow Pup.
Okay, well. So Paxil is here, and he has been quite animated in the moments before our program. So he is here to help us kind of explain some of the things we're going to talk about. And the primary focus of our show today is we're going to talk about things you need to know before you adopt a pet. Going to talk a little bit about gift giving as a pet. Is that even a good idea? If so, under what circumstances? But really just kind of things that you need to know. Some people, roll up their sleeves and say, well, I think I'll get a kitten today or a puppy, and I get the cutest one, and I bring it home, and then things can be troublesome, Nadia. Yeah. So let's talk about that. First, tell me a little bit about Golden Bone. Let me get your credentials, ladies.
Okay, in a nutshell, we're a foster-based canine rescue.
Okay.
We deal exclusively with dogs. The occasional cat slips in there, but our forte is really dogs. Okay. We take them from all kinds of situations. Some of them are situations of neglect and cruelty and abandonment. Many of the situations we take them from are from people who have to relinquish their animal because they're going into a nursing home or because they have a terminal illness, or some kind of unforeseeable circumstances forces them to give up their dog.
Gotcha. And Paxil here, is he one of those?
Yes, he is. He was relinquished by a very, very lovely gentleman who absolutely adored him. He has never had a harsh word spoken to him in his life. He's been extremely well taken care of, but the individual has a terminal illness, and his biggest concern was, what do I do with my dog now that something is happening to me? And
the two of you, it sounds like, provided a pretty good solution that gentleman, I'm sure, would be very proud of, because Paxil is a working dog now.
Yes. He is now a service dog. He's both service and therapy, and the difference between service and therapy is, as a as a service dog, he's trained to provide comfort and service to an individual.
Not this guy.
Yes, indeed.
For our radio audience, I got to tell you, you're missing something, because this fella, our TV audience, can enjoy that he looks just like a big old stuffed pillow. I mean, look at him. He's laying here. He's having a good time. He's putting all of us to sleep just before the show, because he's just kind of mellow and laid back, and I guess that's important for what he does.
For the kind of work that he does, it's really, really wonderful, because he, pretty much anybody, children with illnesses, children with special needs, seniors, some dogs really don't respond well to, because they're different.
Right.
Dogs will pick up on something that's different, and some dogs don't respond well.
You just hit the heart of our show today, so let's get going on that. When you go and let's start with Paxil, since he's here. He's a good visual aid for our TV side. A smaller dog. Yep. It appears by all, certainly we've been with him for about a half an hour now, and he's very well behaved, quiet, those kinds of things. There's certain folks that are going to want to adopt a dog like that. Certain folks are going to want to adopt a 90-pound dog that's full of energy and everything in between. Where do you start when you're looking to adopt? And let's start with, just say, dogs. Where do you start? What do you ask yourself?
Well, it's a little different looking for a dog than from our perspective.
Sure.
It's what we look for in an adopter. The first thing we do is when we have a dog, we find out who that dog is. It's not, we don't just put it in a kennel. It goes into a foster home, and we find out, does the dog have separation anxiety? Is it house trained? Does it suddenly get active? Because when a dog's in a kennel, it might be a very, very different animal than what is there 3 days after it's adopted. It could be an entirely different animal. We've seen it so many times where a dog is depressed and quiet, and everybody says, oh, what a nice quiet dog. They get him home, and he's tearing around, because now he's happy and he's free.
Right.
So we spend the time to get to know who the dog is before we even put it up for adoption.
Dogs have personalities.
They have personalities. They have medical issues. They have hairdos. Can we do something about his ear there?
Okay. All right.
And dogs can even have neuroses.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and with what the two of you do with rescues, and sometimes dogs, as you described, coming from maybe less than ideal circumstances, that can be certainly, I would think, a part of what
Right.
you see probably regularly.
Right. So there are some dogs who have been abused, and so they shy away. You
Yeah.
know, they're scared, and it takes a while to kind of get them to feel comfortable in their own skin again. You know, some dogs
Right.
have never even known how to be a dog, and so you know, just getting them to play, something as simple as that.
Sure. That's where the rehab comes in, and
Right.
Golden Bone Rehab, Rescue and Rehab.
Very much so. We're believers in trying to fix as much as we can. Many dogs are really temporarily disabled,
Yeah.
for want of a better word. They get into a circumstance that they can't cope with it, and they go into shock, and they put up these little barriers, just like humans. Humans
Yeah,
will do the
sure,
same thing.
sure.
And it inhibits them being adopted a lot.
Right.
So we work on bringing out what that dog really is so you can see it, and you know, they're not frightened all the time.
We've done a ton of shows over the many years that we've done this show. We've had, you're not the first dog in this studio there, Paxil. And one of the things, I remember one of our guests telling me one time that people think about abuse of animals, which is just horrific. But we think a lot of times about physical abuse and those kinds of things. But this guest said one of the worst kinds of abuse that you can visit upon an animal, a dog especially, is just neglect.
Neglect.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And not even to the point of, but just not letting, you know, having the interaction that dogs desire and that most humans would need. The playtime, the personal, you know, all of those kinds of things. Just, he's in the backyard, leave him.
Right, or even in the house and just constantly shooing them away. Yes,
Right.
it is. It's not good for a dog, any more than it would be for a child.
Right.
I know a lot of people don't like to make the correlation between dogs and humans, but in terms of behavioral therapy and ways that we cope with it, it's very much like a human. If you neglect a dog and constantly turn your back on it, the same as you do with a child,
Right.
it's not going to develop properly.
And you're teaching your own self maybe some not so good habits about something. People go, I think most people when they adopt, probably you would agree that they have good intentions, but until you know what you're getting into. So let's continue along that line. It's going to depend, as you say, you get to know the dog. I guess a person coming in to adopt would have to ask themselves a lot of important questions up first. I guess starting with their age, where they live, do they own a home, are they in an apartment, do they, you know, all of those things that you really gotta think
These are
about.
all things that we look at, and I can't tell you how many people get annoyed or angry with us because a dog may not be right for their home. We get a lot of college students out of NAU and places like that that want to adopt this little puppy that's going to be 80 pounds. They're
Right.
living in an apartment with a roommate.
And they're only going to be there for a couple of years.
They're only going to be there for a couple of years, and at that point we have to say, where are you going to be in a couple of years? Are you going to have to move? Are you going to be able to buy a house? Because chances are your landlord's not going to let you bring an 80-pound dog.
Yeah.
So we have to look at all those things. We don't look at just the moment. You know, is this
Right.
a perfect place for the dog for the moment? Where is that dog going to be 15 years from now?
You say some folks maybe get a little snippy about that. I would assume others would appreciate that maybe, well, I hadn't thought about that.
90%, I would
know?
say 90% of the population really are appreciative of what we do. Every now and again, it's somebody who really wants a dog, and we, for whatever reason, feel it might not be the best home for them. People can get annoyed at that, and it's just unfortunately part of what we have to deal with.
Right. You're looking out for this guy and his buddies, and you know, more than kind of going the other way, but
And
helping
also,
people.
but also for the people, because it's no fun
Right.
if you get a dog in your house and that dog is totally inappropriate for your home. It's not doing you a service either.
All right, we need to take a break. Paxil and I are going to have a short nap during the break. Look at this guy. We'll pause for just a moment. From Golden Bone Rescue and Rehab, Angela Windolf and Nadia Caillou. We'll visit more with them when we come back to Countywide right after this.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I was in junior high the first time I caught my mom using denial. She had to have known her painkillers were missing because I kept stealing them. Her denial was so out of hand.
So she doesn't even know? I'm going out.
It was like I could get away with anything.
You kids have fun.
And that was when I knew. When she was addicted to denial.
Denial is a drug. Get help. The partnership at drugfree.org.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Now, some action from the courts. Billie Jean King renewing her rivalry with Arthritis. First set, furious volley, and right to the net for a winner. Beautiful forehand there. Arthritis, stunned. And here, match point. Billie Jean with the ace, taking it in straight sets. Afterwards, a jubilant Billie Jean King.
Tennis is a weapon for me with arthritis. There's nothing like it for me to hit a ball, run to the ball, anytime, any court. I'm ready. Let's go.
What's your weapon against arthritis? Find out at fightarthritispain.org.
Welcome back to the program. Golden Bone Rescue and Rehab here, co-founders Nadia Caillou and Angela Windolph, and talking about pet adoption and not just how important it can be and what a role it can play in your lives and the lives of the furry friend that you help, but making sure you're ready, making sure you match the right pet to the right circumstance, the right people, and that's our focus today. We have a lot of retired folks across Yavapai County in our area, certainly, and many, I think, are pet lovers and are kind of settled, but you've got... It's tough maybe for someone who's up there in years and not quite as active to come and get a puppy that's going to need a lot of, outdoor maybe playtime and things like that. Angela, tell me, you've got a special program kind of for seniors.
We do. We have a special program that we call Seniors for Seniors. Okay. And basically that is seniors adopting senior dogs. And to us, a senior dog, we're considering about 8 years and up.
Okay.
And so that still can be very young for small dogs.
Sure.
And basically, sometimes it happens that one of the spouses will pass and then, the other spouse finds himself alone and they would like a companion and they might think, oh, I'll get a puppy. But puppies can be such a huge responsibility, right. The training, the undertaking. And in the same vein, we also get a lot of dogs from seniors who then are going into facilities for senior care and
right.
such things like that. And so they come to us and they ask us to rehome their dogs.
So, perfect matches could come out of that.
Absolutely.
It sounds like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Some dogs are definitely meant to just be little lap dogs. They would love to hang out all day and just be a comfort to a senior.
No, not like our guest of the moment here,
Absolutely.
Paxil the dog laying here with us, and you are a mellow man, my friend. But there you go. He might illustrate the kind of dog that, say, seniors particularly, or maybe folks with limited mobility, those kinds of things. But you mentioned something at the beginning there, and that's about training.
Yes.
And I think when you talk about training, a lot of people think, well, I have to teach him how to do tricks and that.
Right.
And I think what you're meaning is just the basics.
The very basics. House training, not chewing destructively.
Yeah.
Things like that, not being an incessant barker.
Right.
Things that would be important, especially if you are in a senior facility type of place where you've got to consider all of the other inhabitants.
Right. Nadia, I know you know who Cesar Millan is, yes. The dog whisperer. He has always, from what I understand and what I've seen of his show, preaches there's really no such thing as a bad dog, there's bad owners. Would you abide by that?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely, I would.
What do you think he means by that? What do you mean by that?
Dogs are born good.
Mm-hmm.
They're born, well, as people are. I believe that very strongly. We're all born good. Every now and again you get somebody with a tweak. Same thing happens with a dog, but it's very rare. We do occasionally get breeding mistakes and things like that, which
right.
will cause problems mentally for dogs. But for the bulk of them are just born good. They get damaged by the way they're treated. People often chain dogs. It's one of the worst things that you can do because that dog then is not approachable. It's much more aggressive. It's teaching a dog to be aggressive.
I'm sorry, say again.
Being chained.
Oh, chained up.
Having a dog on a chain
got you.
teaches it to be aggressive.
I see. Is that right?
Very much so. And things like that. So dogs can be ruined. We get it all the time. We recently had a dog that unfortunately was a beautiful, beautiful dog, but she had been raised in an apartment with no social activity whatsoever. When you got her out into the real world, she was ready to eat it.
Right.
And perfectly good dog had
right.
it been socialized a little bit.
Sure.
So like people, like children, like raising a child, you do need to pay attention.
And again, it seems to me that case would point to what we talked about earlier about we think of abuse as maybe something really, really atrocious and physical pain being caused, where neglect as in that case, you say could ruin a dog and
Exactly.
make that dog very difficult perhaps for the current owner, make that dog very difficult perhaps to someday match with another owner because of these behaviors that a good owner wouldn't have allowed to take place in the first place.
And I think if anything, that would be my plea to the world, is that if you're going to take a dog, please train it, teach it, because if something happens to you, if that dog is not social, if that dog is not trained, it has nowhere to go.
Yeah, it's at the end of the road.
It's the end of the road at that point. So it's very, very important when you get a dog. Please, my request to everybody is take the time.
Is there, here, I'm going to ask you a loaded question. Is there any such thing as, I mean, are there any kind of just basics that you really should have in place before you come and adopt, let's say a puppy. We talked about senior dogs, so let's say a lot of folks want puppies because they're cute and cuddly. Kids at home say, do you need a fenced yard? Do you have to have one?
Yes.
What do you really need to have?
Again, there's flexibility in all of those things. With large puppies, with dogs that are going to be full-size dogs, we always look for somebody with a fenced yard because it's just too hard to contain a dog that size.
Right.
Little dogs, it's another thing. They can be in apartments. They can be in trailer parks and things like that where they've got a little patio. What people really need more than anything else is a safe place to contain the dog, the patience and the ability to give it the time and attention it needs, and I hate to say it, but financial resources. It's become extremely expensive to have a dog. Veterinary bills alone, their estimates that it averages $1,000 a year per dog. Just for general maintenance. That's a lot of money. So if you have 3 or 4 dogs, you're looking at $3,000 or $4,000 a year just for maintenance if nothing goes wrong.
Right.
You know, God forbid things go wrong.
I've heard it said that most typically dogs, if they live a healthy life, if they're taken care of well, they're expensive at the beginning as a puppy with the shots and all that's needed, and they can be expensive toward the end of life issues and health concerns and so on. Doesn't mean it's a coast in the middle by any stretch, as you just said. But is that about right? Are those kind of financial considerations?
Typically those are the biggest areas that you need to be concerned about financially, is puppyhood and old age.
Yeah.
However, things happen in between. Dogs also need good food. They need training. All of these things cost money. Things to chew on, dental care, all of those things have to go in those between years, not just the senior and puppy years.
Again, to reference Cesar Millan, he says, man, if you don't exercise that dog, you're going to have a nervous bundle on your hands.
Absolutely.
For most dogs, big, small, little, whatever.
Absolutely. A little dog is easy to exercise. You can throw a ball in your apartment or down the hallway and things like that. A big dog, another matter. You have to be on the road. You got to be moving around.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
I want to ask you before our break, the show's going so quickly on us today. Holiday time is coming.
Yes.
I asked the two of you before the show, what do you think about giving a puppy, say, as a gift?
It's a horrible idea.
Both these horrible ideas, Angela.
Please don't. The only time it's appropriate is if that person is fully aware that they're going to be getting a dog, that they have some input into it, because you don't want to bring them a dog that's not right for them.
Surprise, Grandma, here's a puppy.
Here's a puppy, and all of a sudden she's responsible. Or even for somebody you know very well, somebody younger. It may not be the dog they want. What I always recommend is if you really would like to give an animal as a gift, give them a gift certificate to your shelter.
Yeah.
Or a gift certificate for a first vet visit for the dog that they adopt, and let them participate in choosing the dog for adoption.
Be very, very careful about gifting pets, I guess is what we would call it. All right. We need to take another short break. We'll have more Nadia Caillou, Angela Windolf, and Pixel, the incredibly incredibly restful dog. A short break. Countywide's back right after this.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Yes, ready. Go get it.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Fire can happen at any time. What would you try to save?
My family photos.
My grandfather's war memorabilia.
my dogs.
I'm firefighter Brandon Wacker with the Cotton Fire Department. A working smoke detector is your best defense in the event of a fire. Make sure you have a smoke detector in every room except your kitchen. Test them monthly and change the battery once a year. Take the time to save the things you can't replace.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to the program. Again, our guest today, Angela Windolf, Nadia Caillou. Golden Bone Rescue and Rehab, their phone number is 567-8994, and a good website, goldenbonerescue.org. A lot of information there. I know that someone is, after watching especially, is going to call and say, is Paxil? I called him Pixel a minute ago. Sorry, puppy. Is Paxil up for adoption?
No, Paxil is not currently up for adoption, but we often get dogs like him. This is, one of the things we wanted to stress is that we do get purebred dogs come in. We do get little dogs. We do get dogs with this kind of disposition.
Is he a Bichon?
He is a Bichon.
Yeah, he's got all the earmarks. As we talk about that, then I know that what you do specifically when we say rescue and rehab, you're looking for foster. Do we say foster parents?
Foster parents.
Foster parents for animals that come like him that end up with you.
Yeah, we call them pet parents. So because we're foster-based, we don't have a facility. Okay. All of our dogs have to go into foster homes. So we're looking for caring people who don't necessarily want to make a commitment to a full-time dog for the rest of the dog's life, but would like to help a dog find another home.
Okay.
We have a foster program. We would love to hear from people who are interested in doing that. We can match a dog to that home.
Okay.
We don't necessarily, if you've got an apartment, we're not going to throw in a big dog.
Sure.
We get lots of little dogs. We get a lot of big dogs. We have dogs that are suitable for pretty much any environment.
To be a good foster candidate, what do some of the basics I need to... Do I need to understand that I'll probably be relinquishing this dog, or do I have an option?
You do have the option at the end of it. We also have a program called Foster to Adopt, which is an out for our foster homes, because sometimes you have a dog in your house for 5 or 6 weeks. You don't want to give it up, and we understand that, and we lose a foster that way. That's why we have such a high attrition rate for foster homes, is people do fall in love with the dogs, and they do want to keep them.
How could you have this guy in your house 5 weeks and not want to keep him?
Pretty hard to...
So I can understand that, and I guess that feeds the need for why fosters are so important to your program.
But many people don't want to make that commitment for 18 years or 15 years, whatever the life of the dog's going to be. So it's a way to enjoy the company of a dog, help the dog find a home, and really help an organization.
Big time. Okay. Well, ladies, we thank you so much for coming in, sharing your expertise. Think a lot about it. goldenbonerescue.org. I'm sure there's a lot of online resources about what to think about, what questions to ask yourself before you adopt a pet. Giving pets as gifts, you've heard the experts today. They say it's a tricky idea. Be very, very cautious about doing so. And I'm sure people can call either of you and ask questions beyond what we've said today about pet adoption. It's a great, wonderful thing, but it is a big, big commitment. And we ask you that you understand what it's all about before you do that. Golden Bone Rescue and Rehab, Nadia Caillou, Angela Windolf, and Paxil, the sleepy dog, on our program today. We thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
This has been County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's County-Wide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.